Hi everyone, this is the last video on the driving home for Christmas sweet pea Sewalong. Can't believe I've caught up. Oh, excuse me. So now it is sewing the binding on and backing your quilt. It depends if you want to back the quilt or whatever, but I'll show you what I've done. So this is going to be a wall hanging like I've said previously. But if you just wanted to use the wadding that you've already got in it, that's fine. But I've found before that you can still see the creases, if you like, in the quilt once you hang it up. So what I've done, I've backed mine. So that needs trimming. Yeah, you need to go around it, everything, and trim your threads after, obviously. So what I've done, I've used some of this spray, 505 spray or whatever. Your spray adhesive, your temporary adhesive, and I've got me sweet pea wadding, batting, whatever you want to call it, and then got a backing as well. So I've put sprayed the thing onto here, can you see? And then attach that to that, and then same at the back. So that's what you call your quilt sandwich. What I have done, I've then secured the back to the front with a stitch in the ditch. But I haven't gone through the ones that's a full block, you know what I'm saying? So let me show you what I mean. So this one, for instance, I haven't gone across there because that will split that block. So I've just gone down here as far as this one. And I haven't gone down there. But as long as it's got some anchorage, can you see at the back what I've done? As long as it's got some anchorage just to hold it on. So we're now down to, see what I mean? You can see now where I've quilted it. You can quilt it however you want. But you don't want to be doing too much because obviously you've quilted all your blocks separately. So you can put it, anyway, that's how I've done mine. So now I've cut my binding at 2.5 inches. So 2.5 inches. Cut my selvage off. I've not done a good job there. So that's my binding cut at 2.5 inches. I've measured it round and made sure it's going to fit. So, and then I've ironed it, folded it in half, right, wrong sides together, and ironed it. So I've got one long strip now that's going to fit all the way around my quilt. There's different ways of sewing your binding on, so I will do it my way, step by step. When I first started quilting, obviously you're taught to sew the binding onto the front and then hand stitch it onto the back. Well, I've got to nearly 60 now, and I've only been quilting for about, I don't know, 10ish years, 12 years, something like that. I can't remember. Probably less, actually. In fact, it is less. So back in the day when I started, I was doing it in inverted commas properly, as in sewing the binding onto the front and then pulling it through to the back and then hand stitching it. Now, forget that now. I'm not doing that now. Life's too short. Anybody that knows me knows this. So what I do now, I've done this one I prepared earlier. So what I do now is stitch it onto the back with a 1/4 inch seam, and then obviously, pull it forward. So this is the front of the work. So what I'm going to do on this one, I won't do this on camera obviously, pull it forward, use my quilt clips, and then I'll just top stitch it across here. But I will show you that on this one step by step. So at the moment now, I don't pin it either when I'm doing this. I always start at the side. Again, it's each to their own. So I start at the side. You're leaving a tail on so you can join it after. So don't stitch right on the end of here when you're going to stitch it to your quilt. So I'm going to leave a bit of a tail on, so probably that much, and then start possibly here and then come down. I am going to change my foot to my dual feed foot because I just find it easier. So I've got the Brother Avenir, as you will know. I don't want to get my face in this shot. Here we go. So this comes with different feet. You can purchase different feet. I've got a 1/4 inch foot. This one's I don't know if it's a stitching ditch or quarter. It's a stitching ditch, which I think anyway. So yeah. So I'm going to put this on, and then we're going to go from there. So yeah, just to show you, that's the 1/4 inch foot. Can you see your little thingy here? Your guide is at the side. This one is stitching ditch, stitch in the ditch, so it's in the middle of the guide. I use this one when I'm sewing the binding onto the front. So I've got my dual feed foot on. It's got a little thing at the side here, so if this screws on, I've got my little a 1/4 inch foot also attached. Like I said, I don't think they come with 1/4 inch. You have to buy this separate. I think about £15. Um, so you've got a little. Everything's little into this morning. Apologies. There's a roller thing here, a lever that you push down, and then this roller will engage. So if you can see there it goes down. So that then now will like grip the fabric if you like. So your 2 row seams need to be together. So like I said before, give a bit of spare fabric. So line these up. I should have done this before I go on, but I want to show you foot. Line your 2 row edges up. That's it. And you see there, so they're both matching. You can pin this, clip this, or whatever, but I never do because it takes time. So as long as you just take time to get that, and then this has got a guide on it. You don't have to use this foot. You don't have to use your guide. So there you go. Now I always use my foot pedal. Some people don't, but I do. So yeah, and then just literally again. Some people don't go back here. I do. Now with this move it foot, dual feed foot, you're not supposed to go racing. It's not its death out of me because obviously I like to race. It just gives it an accurate, and what it does, it feeds it through like it's just a walking foot. But this I find this better. There's also dynamic walking foot as well, which I've not tried yet. So I will borrow one from work and do a little video on that as well. So this is, like I said, move it foot, dual feed foot. It plugs into the back of my brother having here. It works on VQ as well, models, Bel Air XJs, your bigger end machines. And once you've plugged it in, on the machine screen, it comes up DF, dual feed, and then it brings up the stitches that you can use within this foot. So it is good, as long as you remember to plug it into that. So we're going to stitch all the way down to the first corner. And then I'm going to show you how to do corners. I'm sorry if view's not that fantastic. As everybody knows that knows me, I'm technophobic. So my son bought me this, set me up with this camera, but I've no clue how to make it magnify it so you can get close in. So I can take your camera closer. Right. You're now going to sew right up to the edge of this corner. It should be 1/4 inch, but so right up to the edge, 1/4 inch ish. Again, I do go back. You don't have to. Now we were taught when I did quilting class not to cut this off, but I do. So I cut it off here. Lift my foot up. Right. I'll show you this, and then I'll go back. So what you do now, this is how I've been shown. You're going to pull your fabric back at an angle here. So it's going to be like a 90-degree angle. Like finger press it if you like. And then make sure this top bit is adjacent to the top bit of your quilt. So I need to come slightly back, closer to me. You can see here, because then this top bit needs to be adjacent to that, and then this side bit needs to be to this, and this needs to be straight. So this bit here, this fold here needs to be straight. So just take a bit of time playing. You'll get it, because you will. Right, pull that back a bit. Right, can you see how I've done that? Lighting's not fantastic. That's it. You see how I've done that? I've bent it there, so it's there. Right. My fabric's just pulled away a little bit. It's difficult to do it while I'm on camera. Then that needs to go back under your needle, on your plate, 1/4 of an inch, so realistically lining up to where you've already sewn. So 1/4 of an inch from this top bit down, and then again start sewing. I am going to go back. Ideally, don't go back, but I do. Then, or please yourself, but and then sew all the way down again and continue that all the way around until you come within about 4 or 5 inches of your tail. So I'm going to sew all the way around my quilt until I come back to this edge I started on with about a bit of a gap. So I've gone all the way around. I've left the gap. Depends how big and bulky your quilt is for how big your gap you leave. I don't know what that is. Maybe 10 inches, is it? Something like that. I've left a gap and I've got to, I never measured binding right, but never mind. As people know, budget and scope of me. So, we've now got to join this up. These two tails up. So you want about halfway between there, for that from that seam, we know when I started sewing there, and halfway-ish there. And then to measure, you see I do this by eye, so you want really 1/4 of an inch off each, so I don't know if it's half it anyway. So you need to measure and leave enough so you can take your seam in. So communication problems this morning. Lack of sleep. So I'm going to cut that up there. Right, to get rid of my long tail of me. So as you can see now, so I need 1/4 of an inch there. So I need to leave 1/2 an inch to allow for both seams, both joining. I don't measure. That surprises you, does it? And I do it by eye. As in, there are different hacks on Facebook on how to do this. I've seen them. But will I follow them? Right. That's going to suffice for me. If you don't cut enough off, it can be baggy. If you cut too much off, it's not going to meet. So I'll go with that. So I've cut it off to match them seams. So what you do now, bend that. You need to pull that away a little bit and a bit closer, you can't see. And what I'm trying to do is fasten these two together, then sew all the way across. And for this I need a pin. So I'm going to bend the quilt in half, because it's going to be easier. Your right sides together. Don't twist this, because I have done that before. So that's together. And then match your ends up. So she's lifting her fingers to pull my seam. This binding's not the best to move, because I've got it's glitter fabric. So now I'm just going to put a couple of pins in there just to hold that while I try and pull these to match. I'm trying to manoeuvre it around camera. This is why it's taking me time. But there's no rush. I mean, it's Christmas now in 7 weeks. Right, so I've pinned that. So now we're going to stitch that together. If you don't leave enough gap, it's difficult to manoeuvre. Enough of a gap even, or enough of a tail. So probably, right, here we go. Get that under. It will try and pull its way out because it's the weight of the quilt. My foot down. Don't know if you can see. I took a pin out because the machine's too expensive to go through pins. And then we're going to sew that seam. Pull that pin out. And then pop your quilt again as you were sewing it. And then that seam then, oh excuse the bad camera work there. That seam then should snap into place, which it is doing. Can you see? You might just have to pull it to give it a little bit of an ease, and that snaps now into place. So what you're going to do now is sew all the way to join that up. So we've stitched all the way around, we've got it all joining, all our corners, everything. Crack up. So now, again, I start from the edge. It's just something I've always done. What we need to do now is, this is where I do use clips. You've got your right side, you're getting your binding that you've just stitched on. Give it a little bit of a pull, and then try not to pull this down. That's your seam allowance. Make sure that is in to your binding. Fold it to there, and then pull it to the front. And then what we're going to do, we're going to use quilt clips, or you can use pins if you like, but quilt clips are, they're the future, in my opinion, because they're absolutely marvellous. Now, if you've not done quilting before, when you were sewing your binding on at that stage, if you wanted to do what they call a scant quarter of an inch around to seal all this in before you do your binding on, you would find it easier. So that's one thing to do if you want to. A scant quarter of an inch, I mean, quarter of an inch is quarter of an inch, isn't it? But it's like an eighth of an inch, if you like. It just seals your edges in. So I'll show you in a minute why you'd find it probably easier. Because can you see this now? How that has pulled forward. And if you can see it, you see my seam's pulled back, but that's going to cover it anyway. The binding's going to cover it anyway, but ideally, if the binding weren't going to cover it, you would have to unpick that and then go over it again. So if you'd done a scant quarter of an inch, an eighth of an inch around it just to seal your ends in. If anybody's familiar with Biani products and how they the tutorials, you always, because you're using that soft and stable stuff or that bosal, you always seal your edges in with that. Right, I'm not going to show you all. So you're going to come now to your edge, to your mitered edge. If you don't want to do it this way, you can just do strips and have an edge that's not mitered, but I think this always gives a nice professional finish. So here, push it all the way up as you can to make a little fold. Can you see what I've done? Yeah? So now, you're going to pull that back. If you just pop a little bit of start turning your corner first, that makes it easier for you. I've turned the corner. You see what I've done? I've turned So I've started now back up the other side. So I've got this. So, like I said, give it a bit of a tug and then put a quilt clip in there. Can you see now how perfect that is? It's not often I have things perfect. So it's giving you an edge. Excuse me. Can you see? So it joins on. So that is a neat, how to do your neat corners. So you're going to do that all the way around and just keep following it round. Okie dokie. Right, I've just taken my 1/4 inch foot off on my dual feed and I'm going to put my stitch in the ditch foot on. So this one, this is great for top stitching on these. So I've gone all the way around the quilt. I've changed my thread now to a green thread because I'm going to be top stitching. You do find with your dual feed foot that it is quite a big foot, so I will have to take some of these clips out and then rearrange, to get it under. Right. So what I do, I'll set my foot in there. I don't know if you can see that, possibly. My needle now is right where the ditch is, where the guide is. You don't want that. You want it to the right slightly. So I've gone, I don't know if I've gone to quilting. Let me just check what I normally go on, but I can't remember. You just you need it to the right as much as you can. Right, it's piecing. So on my Avenir, I go into my quilting stitches and then I'll go to the piecing one. So on the Avenir, it is the Q, the stitch Q -02. So that just takes it slightly in. So I put my foot down now. It's just going to give me a very slight seam. I don't know if you can see there. So I put my needle down. You see, it's just slightly in. So that is a great stitch with this guide on. So now I'm going to go all the way around and stitch all the way around. I'm not going to do it on camera because I'll just do the first one so you can see. Obviously go slow. You can either use a stiletto tool just to keep pulling. I mean, I've got stilettos, I'm cracking knows where they are. Or a pair of, something sharp or a crochet hook, just to keep your binding in situ. If you go slowly, just to make sure that it's catching all the way in. This stitch is perfect. You see? And then obviously as you go, you would be taking your clips out. Or pins, whatever, but clips are the way forward for me. Also, as well, take note that if you don't give enough seam allowance, you're going to get your stitching in from the actual quilt block. So just to be aware of that. I mean, you can trim it down. Like I've said all the way through these videos, I have not followed the instructions of Sweet Pea. So if Sweet Pea tell you, if you're following the instructions, that is absolutely fine. I don't think I've not printed them off and I've certainly not looked at them. Because to me, it's just a general. But if it helps you, there's no shame in looking at instruction. I mean, that's what they're there for. So yeah, I'm going to go all the way around. I will show you what I do at the edge when I get there. On the, go on, corner. I'm coming up to the first corner. So check all your what's it's out clips. Now, we're having the guide on. This can be a bit tricky because it sometimes goes underneath that binding. So just to be aware. If you didn't want to use a straight stitch, you can use any stitch to put your binding on. I used to do it with a zigzag, but I do like straight stitch now. So I have my needle in the down position. So when I lift my foot up, my needle is still down. You can have it on this machine on a pivot. So as soon as you take your foot off, your foot pedal, sorry, off, this foot will raise. I have to that off because it drives me insane. So my foot up, I'm going to then now turn. I've gone so far, which is about a quarter of it, whatever it is, I don't know. I've eyed it just to make sure. You'll know this, and then I'm going to come, yeah, you see now what's happened. So I've come back and it's spot on there to take that seam in again. So I'm going to drop my foot now and then carry on stitching. So as long as your needle's down, all is good. And if you can see now, look there, it's just took that seam in. But like I say, zigzag, serpentine stitch, a decorative stitch, anything you can use just to seal these edges. If you can see, I've just hiccuped a little bit there, but because I've used the same colour thread as my binding, it don't matter. So now I'm going to carry on all the way around. So I've gone all the way around now. We're all finished. You see, that's your binding. That's the front, obviously. The back. Now you can see a white line of stitching because of my bobbin thread. It's back. And plus the fact as well, it's even. So I don't mind that, but each to their own. If people want to do it the other way, that is absolutely fine. So I haven't put a hanging loop on this or a sleeve yet, so I'm not sure how I'm going to hang it. But if you were going to put a hanging sleeve on or a loop, you need to put that on when you're putting your binding on. It's not hard to do. You just obviously put it on and then bring it forward. Or if you put a sleeve, you can even unstitch it on after. A sleeve across like that, just a little pocket. And you could put some bamboo or something through it. But I'm not sure how I'm going to do this yet. I've got some pegs that I might use with loops on. So that is mine finished. It's been, I must admit, because obviously I'm doing the videos, I did find it a bit of a pain. However, now I've done it, I absolutely adore this. One thing I'm going to do though, this is going to be a wall hanging. It was going to be my dining room, but I think we're going to have it hanging in my door, from my door in the living room. I think I'm going to make some cushions to match. So if I do, I'll pop them on. I'll pop a video on because these they would look great, on cushions. Oh, this one as well. So yeah, well, thank you for watching. I'm sorry it's been quite a long video, but just to show you the process of putting the binding and backing on, etc. Do take a bit of time as well to get rid of all your little bits of thread on that because it just looks nice. But like I said, that's the back. And you can see my mitered corners as well. They do look okay, I must admit. Yeah, get in. So, thank you for watching. And if you have taken part in the sew along, if you wouldn't mind going on to our Facebook group, pop a photograph on of them all, it'd be fantastic. Or even sweet peas as well. They'd be pleased to see the progress. So thanks for watching and I've appreciated your company. If you do want to keep up to date with any videos that I pop on, they'll not be very forthcoming before Christmas because we're really busy in retail at the moment and I'm absolutely shattered. But if you do, just subscribe and like, that'd be nice. And then it'll pop up on your YouTube when there's a new video coming on. Or if you don't want to, that is absolutely fine. Have a good day.